You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Listening to the Bells of Liberty podcast, where freedom rings and the sassiness stings. Stay tuned for a little bit of sassy freedom. Hello, you're listening to the Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. Thank you for joining us tonight. Since we were all together right before the 4th of July, we hope you all had an enjoyable day and took a moment to reflect on the freedoms you've enjoyed because of our great nation. Unless you happen to be a celebrity or a social justice warrior, and then you took to Twitter to complain and bemoan about this terrible country that should be ashamed and shunned for all its wrongs while continuing to live here, benefit from the horrors, and not be arrested for spouting stupidity. So anyway, how was your 4th, ladies?
It was good. It was quiet. Had a lot of fun times with family and, fireworks. Go America.
Let's see. The husband took the kiddos to camp out. I got to spend time alone. He took them to the parade. I got to spend time alone. It was awesome.
You're the real MVP, let me tell you.
I did spend time with family and I did some social things, but it was actually pretty nice and pretty quiet.
Oh, well,
that's all the last bit.
That's good. Like I said I guess Tuesday it would be, was my mom's birthday. And a funny story. You know how I commented at the end of the show that she likes to joke that she gave everybody the day off because it's her birthday?
Yes.
Not because it's Independence Day and like Constitution and whatnot. Okay, well, I joked about that, and then we tweeted happy birthday to her from the Bells account, and she said, thanks, ladies, poof, I gave you the day off. She had not listened to the show. So, it was not in response to me saying that. That is literally how she goes about telling people it's her birthday, so I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, tonight, we dive right back into all of the lunacy of the world. A school in the Cedar Rapids area is in hot water after it was discovered they were disciplining a student inappropriately. More on that in a minute. More transgenders of the female-to-male variety are finding they still want to carry children, and even male-to-female transgenders are starting to demand womb transplant as part of their right to have kids. And we'll continue on to our regularly scheduled Constitutorial on Article 5, and as always, a brand new round of Ring the Belle. So, moving on to our first topic, which I guess is mine. I'm not usually the first one to go, so excuse me, ladies. I'm sorry. I'm not prepared to get my crap together, apparently. So, anyway, the story that I elected to talk about today actually is local. And local being Cedar Rapids, in case you guys don't know. Anyway, what happened was at an elementary school, and what's especially terrifying to me is that this is actually a school that I used to work in. I didn't work for the school district, but the job prior to the one I have now, I was an on-site supervisor for a before and after school program for school-age kids. So I worked in the school. It was kind of a contracted program that we used the school for our program, but we weren't actually part of the school district, if that makes any sense. So I got to see a lot of the ins and outs of the school. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't a fan of the school in the first place. The principal at the time was not a fan of people in my position, often commented that it probably didn't take much education to have the position I was in, because she wasn't...
Nice person.
I know, she was so nice, and whenever there was trouble, it was usually blamed on us, even if it was actually students at the school. So, not a fan, don't miss it one bit, and I'm not actually surprised that something like this came out, but at this elementary, at Pierce Elementary in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a child was put in what they're calling a seclusion room because she was being disruptive. So apparently because she was being loud and not following directions, rather than going to the principal's office or being sent to another classroom or out with the teacher's aide, she was taken to a seclusion room, which, based on the picture that was shared, was just a utility closet that happened to have a beanbag chair shoved into it. And yeah, the girl's mother, they keep referring to her as her caregiver, but apparently it is her mom, was contacted to let her know that her kid was being completely disruptive and needed to go home and whatnot. Came to the school to see that her daughter was still in this room and was a complete mess when she showed up, crying, sweaty, obviously distressed because she was locked in this room, and wasn't let out by teachers until the nurse stepped in and said, you need to let her out, which I know the nurse, she's good people, so I'm glad that someone actually had the sense to see that that wasn't an appropriate way to handle whatever was happening. Mom said that when she looked in the room, there was a puddle of wetness near the door, and the little girl claims it was because she had a snotty nose and was crying so hard and couldn't get out of the room because she was so upset. So I don't know if that's necessarily true. Obviously, the news has made a point of trying to contact the school and our superintendent, but they're not making much commentary other than to say, yeah, staff has been instructed that's not okay. What I also read is that seclusion rooms are becoming more and more frequent in our classrooms here in Cedar Rapids and probably in other public schools. And it just got me thinking, in my current position, working with preschoolers, we're not allowed to give timeouts. Like, we can't even use the word timeout. We have to get them to what we might call like a cozy corner or a quiet area so that they can, sit down and be calm and, not be excluded from the classroom, but have an opportunity to chill out before they have a breakdown or, before they start hurting other kids. But we're very, very loath to suspend anybody, even for violent behavior. So I'm not sure how I feel about this. Personally, if I were a parent, if my kid is being disruptive and is not following directions or is not doing what is asked of them, if they need to be sent to the principal's office or they need to be removed from the classroom until they're calm, I don't know that I'm necessarily against that. But I'm not a big fan of this shoving some kid into a utility closet with a beanbag chair and that being the way to calm the kid down. So I guess I'll open it up to you guys. Yeah. What do you think as parents?
I'm going to bring this from the special needs angle. For me, I have a really big issue about shoving a kid into basically a closet because they're being disruptive. The way I see it, I don't know if the story goes into the details as to what the issues with the child may be. We don't know if she may be ADHD. She may have any other kind of learning disability or developmental disability that may affect or impact her behavior.
Well, they interviewed Mom, and I feel like Mom would have commented on her having any of that, like knowing that wouldn't be a helpful way to discipline her if she did have some sort of learning disability or what have you, and none of that was mentioned in the story. Doesn't make it right, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless, and like I said, I'm coming from that particular angle because the impression that I got is that maybe there's something more going on with this child that the story may not necessarily go into, which may be the reason behind the way that she's acting in the classroom. However, this does not justify the actions of the school. You don't shove anybody into that. How is that different from bullying, from a random kid being shoved into a locker by a bully at school?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. It's if anything, it's making it seem worse. It's almost like you're encouraging kids that it's okay that when you don't like someone or someone is doing something that you don't like, you can just shove them in a bathroom stall and lock the door or not let them come out. Like, how is that any different? I think that the school definitely acted completely out of line by doing that. If you do want to have a sort of, like you were saying before, Gina, like a specific, a designated corner in which you send the child to so that they can calm down. If you want to have a room exclusively for that purpose, at least have it prepared to suit that need. Have an actual room with a door, with windows. Don't, shoving a kid in a utility closet. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
So my perspective on this is because I've had some issues with one of my children. There was a big reason why I decided to homeschool my kids, because not because the school was doing something wrong, but just that they couldn't attend to him as was needed. So, and he's not a small kid. And he would get very overwhelmed and frustrated, and he would get pretty out of control. And so I understand having a room set aside, because the best thing for my son at that point would be to be removed, because he would get embarrassed, but he didn't know how to calm down. And so removing him from the situation would have been the best thing. And I understand teachers can't always, there's only one teacher and there's 20 kids to a classroom. And so, if that was an option, but not just like what you were saying, Rocky, you can't just shove a kid in a closet and call it a seclusion room. There has to be some, order, and that kid needs to understand that it's a disciplinary action. It's not like something done in anger. And so there's a whole bunch of things that have to come into place so that using that room could be a helpful thing. And the most helpful thing is to make it safe. And that room was not safe. If you've got a kid who is out of control, throwing a temper tantrum, there are 2 boxes in that room that kid could have severely hurt themselves on, just on the outside of it. Okay. And then if they had gotten the box opened, who knows what would have happened, because weren't those breakers in there?
Yeah.
So I don't even understand yeah.
Well, and this, I think, and on top of that, to not have a staff member be with the kid trying to calm them down. How do you really think that leaving, and this child is in 3rd grade, so what's that, 8, maybe 9 years old? And well, actually, maybe younger than that, because 10 is 5th grade, so maybe 7 or 8. My
daughter just turned 8, and she's in 3rd grade now this fall.
So, all right, so I was right, but to not have a staff member in there. I work with preschoolers now, and I would never dream of trying to let a kid calm themselves down on their own, and in a room, especially of that nature, they don't have some kind of support. Even if I don't talk to the kid, just being there sometimes is enough, because I work with some little people that have hard home lives, or they don't have parents that show affection the same way as their teachers do. So sometimes all they need is someone to sit with them and at least listen when they're upset. Because even at 3 and 4 years old, they have a story. Yeah. So to not have a staff member in there is another liability issue right there, and it's certainly not an appropriate way to help a kid calm down, because they're claiming she just would not stop crying. Well, did you bother to ask why she's crying? Did you bother to try to figure out what upset her? Was she getting picked on? Was there, did the teacher say something that upset her? At least try to find the answer before you blow this kid off. So I am not opposed to a kid being not excluded, but removed from a classroom if they think that's going to help them bring it down a notch. Because some kids do act out in order to get attention, and that they play off of how people are reacting to them. So I'm cool with removal from the classroom, but it certainly wasn't handled correctly. And it disturbs me that this is something that they're recognizing is happening in other schools, that it's not just this school. They're doing it in other schools across the nation. And I feel like this is another reason to homeschool your kids. Another reason to look at the fact that Common Core and, federal funding really has done our schools a disservice, because we've got teachers that have 30 kids in their classroom, and they maybe can't support a kid that needs more, maybe because they have ADHD, or maybe because they have a learning disability or something, or maybe their home life is causing them to behave the way they are. So it doesn't support kids, getting the education that they need while also getting the help that they need, or the mental support that they need, that they're going to need if they're going to be in a school for 8 hours a day and their parents aren't available. So I think it speaks a lot to where our school system is at. And I think we as parents, or at least concerned citizens, if you're not a parent like myself, need to take into consideration and hold the schools accountable. I'm sorry if you're getting federal funding, but that doesn't mean you get lax in other areas. And this is definitely an area that they're failing.
Yep. So, all right. So at this time, we are at time for this segment. When we come back, we have some updates on some fun things that are going on in England that involve the NHS. We'll be back. Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. The Bells for Liberty are back here on the Lanterns Radio Network. So for those of you who tuned into last week's show, you'll recall the discussion that we were having about little Charlie Gard, the baby boy in the UK, where the NHS and other government bodies are basically denying him and his family the right to pursue any kind of treatment that will potentially change the outcome of his very unique health condition. As a quick refresher, Charlie is about 11 months old. His family has been able to collect about $1.5 million worth of donations. They're looking for alternative treatments for the boy's condition here in the United States. There have been hospitals that have offered to cover this treatment completely free of cost. And the NHS has decided that no, we are the last word on what happens to your child. Therefore, we're just going to pull the plug on your baby's life because it's not worth it. Well, in a very interesting and what I would probably call a Jesus come quickly, I have cookies waiting for you moment, this same NHS is willing and actively pushing for men and trans women, these are men who have transitioned to become women, to receive uterine transplants so that they can bear children. So let that sink in. The same organization that's willing to end the life of a baby boy is willing to give life and have people who weren't born with the proper equipment to give life. So I'll explain. So this all stems from procedures that have been performed in Sweden. In Sweden, there have been at least 5 cases reported of babies that have been born to women without wombs. We're not necessarily sure whether these were women who had any kind of issues with their uterus, where they just couldn't bear a child and they received a donor womb. Don't know if it is transgendered women who just didn't have the equipment to begin with. All they know is that they've been able, 5 babies have been able to be born from conception and from birth from transplanted wombs. The gist of this is that the NHS and leading doctors are now considering that the procedure can be applied to trans women, and that even gay men and straight men who want to go through the experience of childbearing can now participate. And not just that, the UK taxpayers should be forced to publicly fund these procedures under the guise of equal rights under the law, or basically the equivalent of equality for all. Since we're all equal, then that means that everybody should pitch in to these procedures regardless of whether you agree or not.
Well, socialist medicine would dictate that they would have to pay for it. Nobody would have a choice. So, yeah.
Exactly. So this all sounds like fun and games. There is a case of a person in England. This is a woman, or at least she was born a woman. Her name is Paige Cross. She was born Paige Cross. She's a transgendered female to male. This woman wants to bear a child, so as a result, she's decided to stop taking her hormones, and she's put a hold on her gender reassignment surgery so that she can bear a child. And then once that process is done, she'll go back to trying to transition to being a man. So that's one of those things that the NHS is like, oh yes, we're all for it. And since transgender, since this transgendered person wants to become a mother and wants to bear a child, then that means that people who weren't born with this particular part, we can just give one to them. And of course, as you would expect, there are some opponents to the idea. There are feminists that are now coming out and saying that they are concerned that biological men with transplanted wombs means that this will redefine what motherhood and womanhood means. And that it will basically, shock, I know, right? And it will basically create test tube women. So I'm going to read the quote because it's a fairly short quote from a feminist campaigner. Her name is Julie Bindel. And she says, quote, "The prospect of wombs being transplanted into transgender women so they can have babies may seem perfectly reasonable to those who see procreation as a right for all women. But those born male who are dosed with female hormones and undergo cosmetic surgery in order to present as female will never be women. Because in science, there is such a thing as men are men and women are women." But that's just, common knowledge, To continue,
not anymore, it's not.
It's not exactly. So to continue on Miss Bindel's point, she says trans women pushing for womb transplants on the NHS are driven by a desire to experience childbirth because it is considered to be an authentic female experience. But this is not about transgendered rights. It's about a twisted notion as to what constitutes a real woman. The procedure suggests that you can create a woman in a test tube or through a surgeon's knife. All of the oppression women have been through because of the lack of childcare and issues over maternity leave will be pushed aside over whether celebrities such as Caitlyn Jenner should have a womb transplant. Let's be clear, she adds, this is a lifestyle choice, not a health issue. And quite frankly, I'm not sure men will make good mothers. End quote.
This is kind of delicious, actually.
It is, isn't it? Right? So the whole point of what the feminist campaigner is trying to say is that, if men are implanted, whether they're born biologically male transitioning to be women, or whether they're just gay or straight men wanting to bear a child, this will basically become an issue where there will not be any more women's rights. It'll just all become transgender rights, because now there won't be that distinction between what makes a man a man and what makes a woman a woman.
I thought there wasn't supposed to be one. I thought it was supposed to be whatever you feel like whenever you feel like it.
Exactly. Which is exactly the
well, and I don't think anybody can answer this because we're not scientists nor doctors, but I just feel like just simply transplanting a womb into a man does not make it a hospitable place for a baby to grow. Like, there's other biological factors that go into growing a child in the womb. There's certain hormones, there's, obviously the ability for the baby to get nutrients and things from mom that help it grow and, live. So I feel like this is all sorts of like medically wrong, because there is a difference between men and women. And I don't think just sticking a uterus in somebody is going to automatically make them a woman, nor capable of having a child. So why are we paying for something like that when there are other ways to have kids? I don't know. This is also confusing because
there's so many kids waiting for adoption, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And obviously conservatives are supposed to take on all of those children because we want them alive, right? So why should we not expect transgender couples or gay couples to perhaps look in that direction before they make more babies?
Exactly, exactly. Well, for whatever is worth, this is something that the NHS is considering to do it within maybe the next 10 years. So it is not something that is happening straight away. All I know is that they're starting to get ideas from Sweden, another one of those, government universal
Oh,
health
Sweden.
care
Well, because Sweden makes
havens.
such intelligent choices about what they do with their country.
Mm-hmm.
And how they treat their living. Oh, you can just go ahead and kill yourself for any reason you want to. Oh, by the way, we're going to do some womb transplants.
Yes. It's like, hey, you want
This
to have
whole
a
thing,
baby? Here you go.
this whole thing
It's
reminds me of wasn't it Zeus who I can't remember. I think it was Zeus like had a child and basically sewed it into his leg and carried it to term. That's kind of what this reminds me of. Like this whole just like haphazard, weird, like Frankenstein-ish kind of let's throw
I was
these
just
body
I
parts
was just about to
together.
say this is like Franken babies. Let's just make
Oh
Franken babies. It's like The
gosh.
Walking Dead will be a reality at this point.
So I have a quick question.
Mhm.
I want to know where the wombs are going to come from the straight or the not the straight men, well maybe the straight men or gay men who want to experience like
They're donated organs. They're donated organs, same as you would donate your eyes or you would donate your heart or your lungs or your liver. It's coming from donors. So there
And
are
if it
people.
doesn't take, do we continue to pay for
Well, it's
right.
the NHS.
know,
You continue to
continued
pay for it whether it works
donations?
or it doesn't.
Why is having a child a right? Okay, I would like to know that. And what kind of
Because
compensation do
everything
people who have miscarriages get?
because everything is a right now, don't you know?
Well,
Everything is a
yeah.
right. You
And
you
do
have a
people
right to have a
do
new car and a new home and a minimum income and health care that, the magic health care fairy
why
is going to pay for you and everything's a right. They keep
I
using
want
the
to
word and
know
they don't know what it means.
I want to know who is going to pay for the couples who have to have in vitro fertilization. Why
them?
isn't that?
That's up to them. We don't care about
That's
that. Those are straight
I know,
people.
right?
We don't
This
care.
is because it does not fall under transgender or gay or lesbian rights. It is not taken care of at all. Even though there are these families who pay thousands of dollars for the
Mhm.
opportunity to have a child, the opportunity, not the rights.
Well, and
Yeah,
So
I
well,
wish these people would just make up their mind because what
yeah.
you hear from the progressive left all the time is why do people want babies anyway? We've got such an influx of kids, we don't need to make any more,
mhm,
and it's usually poor
yep,
kids, and they were never going to have a quality of life. And if conservatives aren't going to take them into their home and pay
exploited.
for them, why are we having more babies? Why do we care? It's not about having babies. It's about how I feel as a human being myself. It's just a clump of cells, whatever. And then we turn around, it's like, oh, but by the way, we want them, so now you get to pay for me to have them. What?
So I
And
also want to know why, if these women who are transitioning to men are transitioning because they say they're trying to be their true self as men,
yes.
why
Exactly.
are they halting their process because they want to experience womanhood? Wouldn't you just say that maybe like you want to be a woman and
Understand that
And
you're
be done with
probably
it.
not going to have kids because that's the decision you've made is because you want to be a man and you're most likely going to be in a relationship. Well, I'm going to assume if they're transitioning from female to male that they're going to have a female partner, correct? If they're going to get into a
not
relationship. I mean,
necessarily?
just if they're
It's
going
all
for the
weird now.
straight up, if they're going straight from male or female to male and they want to be a man and they would prefer women. I don't really know. It's confusing, but I'm just, they go into this knowing that it could potentially sterilize them. So I don't
Yeah.
understand. Oh, I want to go on hormones and I'm going to grow a beard and I want to get rid of my boobs and I don't want to be a man and yet I still want to carry the kid.
Exactly. That's what really irks me about the whole thing is make up your mind. Are you a woman trapped inside a man's body or are you a man trapped inside a woman's body? Pick one and stick with it. Don't change
Not
your
binary, Ross.
plans. Don't change your plans halfway through things just because you feel like it, because you want to go through an experience. You should have made that decision prior to transitioning.
It's just very dishonest to say that I'm going to transition to something else because this is my actual true self and you're denying me the right to become my true self. And then say, oh, by the way, I actually want to do this thing over here. So I'm going to halt this. And then, it doesn't make any sense to me.
All right. Well, at this point, we are going to have to put a stop on this topic and pick it up at some other time, because up next, Courtney is going to walk us through our Constitutorial. The Bells of Liberty will return shortly on the Lanterns Radio Network.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome back to the Bells of Liberty here on the Lanterns Radio Network. And today, Courtney is going to walk us through our Constitutorial. Courtney, take it away.
All right. So this week is all about the amendments, Article 5. So I'll read through and then I'll just go from there. So the Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of several states, shall call a convention of proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall be in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of equal suffrage in the Senate. So this I guess is just kind of pretty straightforward on that, and it's about the amendments too. And so I know it's a lot of therefores and these. I feel like I'm reading King James Version Bible here. But so it got me thinking, though, what are your favorite amendments? And we come to these amendments like the Second Amendment, which, definitely a really good one. First Amendment, yeah, freedom of speech is good. Mm-hmm. I think, though, my favorite, and it's kind of a little hidden one, is the Ninth Amendment. The Ninth Amendment, it basically protects you again, or it basically says if the rights aren't talked about in the Constitution, it's a right until it's proven that it shouldn't be a right. So that's a good one, and I think a lot of people in America don't realize how good that is until they have to use it, and they don't even know that they're using it. I don't know. Do you guys have any comments on that?
When it comes to the amendments, I know that it was talked about, in Prager University had the really cool video about the electoral colleges. But mm-hmm. I'd probably say that if I would have to choose an amendment to the Constitution, I'd choose the 23rd. That's the one that designated the electoral colleges, because come on, you really don't want California to choose who your leader is, right? I mean, am I right? Because I know that the left loves to tout around this idea of popular vote. It's like that's great. Popular vote is a great idea, but with the amount of people that we have here in the United States, that would just basically mean that about maybe 5 states would be the ones to determine who the president of the United States is going to be. And we know full well that places like California and New York would have given us either Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton, because let's be honest, I don't know if there was really that much of a difference between one and the other, especially in light of Bernie's recent indiscretions with the law. He's proven to be about as much. He's proven to be as much of a crook as Hillary is. Just Hillary just takes it to a completely, she's like the mob boss, and Bernie Sanders is like one of the stooges, one of the dons, just below, everybody else. But and I really have to show some appreciation to the electoral colleges, because they really make the process that much more fair and that much more equal, so that it may not feel like your voice is being heard, but in the grand scheme of things, it really is.
Yeah.
Because again, like I said, you don't want New York to tell you who your president is going to be, because that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea for everybody. It's a bad outcome for everybody.
I mean, like I said, it's just a little short section there of our Constitution, but I think it's an important part, because if we didn't have rules on how to go about the amendments, it would be pretty willy-nilly, and willy-nilly, I'm just going to say, it's not good when you're trying to run a country. So.
Not at all. Not at all. Let me see. I'm looking through some of these amendments here, and I'm noticing that they have like a couple of like prohibition ones, and congressional salary can't take effect until the next term of office. You know what? You guys already make too much money, and
yeah, where's the amendment for you don't get paid if you don't do your job?
Yeah.
Exactly. Or if you keep voting present, I'm looking at you, Barack Obama. Other people that keep voting present on any kind of measures, and they continue to get money and get money and get money. And these people, when these people finish their terms, if they ever finish their terms, because come on, let's be honest, some of these people just die while occupying a seat.
Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters.
Exactly. Name them all. You know of at least 10. These people leave their spots, and even as an aside from being an elected official, they keep making money in other ways. So these people end up being one percenters while serving, quote unquote, the people, but they don't really do much of anything but get richer and richer. So honestly, they shouldn't really get any kind of increases in salary. If anything, let's vote for decrease. Let's pay you same as in the private sector. Let's pay you commensurate to your experience and to your record.
Can you imagine if I can't think of the words because I cannot English today. Can you imagine if you were a senator and you had to go to your people and ask for a raise? And be like,
because they know it would never freaking happen.
Exactly.
That's like walking up to your boss and going, I've worked here for 5 minutes, but I think I deserve $1 raise. Yeah, no. You know how fast you'd get fired?
I know I just blew $30 million on the state budget, but I really would like a raise because I really would like that third house. Looking at you, Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know a lot of these people use their money to invest in other things, and that's how they make their money too. But I just don't think that they should be able to, because they're using that position that they're in, like, I'm a senator and you should probably, contribute to this fund of mine. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
Though that's what those pork projects are for. You create some cushy deal for your state or for your district or whatever, and you get some kickback in some way, shape, or form. So it may not be necessarily a monetary gain. It could be anything. In this day and age, it could be anything.
Meanwhile, police officers can't accept a donut or something from a grateful citizen who was very happy with their service.
Mm-hmm.
and grateful for the protection that they provide, not in a mafia sort of a way. And, they'll get in trouble if they accept any sort of gratuities. Meanwhile, we've got senators who are like, oh, sure, I'll take this, 400 acres of land on this prime spot. Yeah, sure. I don't want to pay my taxes for 20 years. That's fine. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but I still think that I think my favorite is probably the Ninth Amendment, because I think that if the Ninth Amendment was gone, there would be so much craziness going on in America right now. More than Donald Trump being president. It would be more crazy than that.
Mm-hmm. And now that you mentioned that, also the 22nd Amendment, the term limits on presidents, because come on, I mean, we've had some pretty sweet presidents, Calvin Coolidge, Ronald Reagan, but think about people like Bill Clinton, think about people like Barack Obama, and even Donald Trump. I know he hasn't been in power for that long, so you Donald Trump supporters out there, don't hate mail, don't hate tweet me, but there really is something behind letting these people do their job for a certain amount of time, and if they're unable to do that job, then let someone else have a turn at it. You have to be thankful for the 22nd Amendment. So, all right.
I think that if we realize the importance of having term limits on presidents, we should have realized the importance of having term limits on senators and congressmen and all those guys too. So, whatever, a girl can dream.
Exactly. So speaking of dreams, we will be back in a minute, Bells of Liberty and Lanterns Radio Network, with our favorite segment of the week. It's Ring the Bell. Welcome back to the Bells of Liberty on the Lanterns Radio Network. I hear that Courtney has the result of our latest polls.
Well, you hear correctly. I have the results in my hand. So, we asked, let's see, my topic was about Facebook replacing God. And apparently the Android Zuckerberg thinks that Facebook is a great alternative to church. And exactly 0% of you agree with that. Yeah. 81% of you said that you will not worship at the altar of Facebook, and 19% of you said tenderloin. So, okay, so on to the next topic. I believe it's Jana's topic, and the question was, is Amy Schumer funny? Because she thinks that talking about poop and calling it America is hilarious.
There's only one right answer.
The choices were no, and I don't know what funny is, and no. We had 58% and 38% said no or no, and then 4% said they don't know what funny is.
At least they're honest.
All right, and then Rocky, your topic was about, obviously marble is racist, right? Because it's white.
Yeah.
6% of you voted that obviously marble is racist. 76% voted that no, you're a sane person, so it's not a thing, and 18% were triggered by this. So my topic today, what I talked about, was the Constitution, and so I thought that it was great that I found this article about NPR tweeting out the Declaration of Independence and people getting triggered by it. No joke, they were up in arms telling NPR that this was neither the time or place to put out such political stuff, and quote unquote, this is why you're going to get defunded. And then another tweet was, in case you're missing it, looks like NPR has been hacked, tweeting like crazy. Well, the Declaration of Independence was a well thought out document, so I can understand it being a little more than 140 words, including the hashtag. So, pardon the tweeting like crazy. I'm not really an NPR supporter, but I thought this was pretty hilarious, and good on them for tweeting out the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July. Very appropriate time to do that.
I thought it was funny that some of these people thought they were inciting a rebellion.
I
was like, well,
did that.
You're not wrong.
It's called 1770.
Did that, but that was a while ago. So perhaps if you maybe weren't asleep or, high during history class, maybe you'd know that, but whatever.
Oh, man. So, late breaking news, there was a revolution and we won. So, there's that.
Exactly.
Hooray! Hooray, America.
I'll just keep ranting about this. So, why don't you go ahead and go with your topic?
Oh, geez. So let's take a quick trip over to our neighbors to the north. So it's just a mental trip, just just a mental trip. And don't worry, if you get stopped for a drug screen, you're gonna pass it. So don't worry about it. So in Canada, I'm gonna try and describe this person in the best way possible because I don't want to trigger them. So this person, Corey Doty, this person is a non-binary transgendered person with this person's partner. They decided to have a child, and this child's name is Cyril Doty, and Cyril is going to be the very first person born without a gender.
On
their
birth certificate, right?
Yeah, that's on their birth certificate.
Because they have a gender.
Yes, they have a gender. Let's just deny science and your eyes and what your eyes tell you. And let's just say that this child being born, it's just a human being. Because when this person was born, the doctors had assigned a gender to him, her. Well, they're gender non-binary, which means that they're neither male nor female. So I really don't know what the pronoun is. Is it they? Is it they today? They, them? Because of what they think they are, they were assigned a gender at birth, and as a result, this caused confusion and led to the transitions that this person has been going through all of this time. So as a result, instead of assigning a gender to this baby after being born, they're just going to basically just leave it with no gender and have this child decide what they want to be when they grow up a little later.
As if childhood isn't confusing enough.
Right? Yeah.
Just add one more thing.
And they're going to be born into this family in which they have two parental units, which one of them identifies as a female, and I guess she would be cisgender if she's a woman, because she considers herself a typical female, and then the non-binary transgendered person, so I don't know what Mother's Day and Father's Day is going to look in that household. It's just like I said earlier, Jesus, come quickly. I'll even bake you a cake. If you're not into cookies, I'll bake you a cake and I'll get you some ice cream. I'll have some cake and ice cream, and just come and fix this quick because this is we're bordering on insanity here, and I
think
I
we're
don't
well
even
past
know.
that. I don't know. Let's just dig in because.
Let's just eat. Let's just eat,
guys.
All right.
Okay.
Jana, you're up next.
Yeah, well, mine is definitely crazy, but maybe not because it's confusing. Because I don't think wasps are anything to joke about, We've got
no, they're not.
First serious, why are these in existence types of insects on this planet, let me tell you.
I agree.
And wasps are definitely one of those things where I often say, if I have the opportunity to ask God, that will be one of those things that I ask.
Why?
Why? Right up there with mosquitoes. If it has a stinger and it's not actually pollinating anything, I don't know why it exists.
Well, exactly.
Apparently, Mike Tingley from Grand Blanc Township in Michigan had a similar thought process when he discovered that a nest of wasps was hanging out in his garage and decided to set off a smoke bomb in his garage to rid himself of said wasp infestation. Yeah, good for him. He also managed to set off some fireworks he had in there with said smoke bomb and managed to get himself a show and caused a raging inferno in his garage. There's video of this. The wasps are probably dead at this point. He got him, guys. He got him. He got him so good. They are gone.
Oh, jeez.
Won't have to worry about a wasp infestation because he no longer has a garage for them to invade. But I just thought it was funny because that is something I would do. I'm actually thinking about finding a flamethrower because I have some wasps that have built a nest in my clothesline because they managed to find holes. And every time I have to take dogs out to go potty or I'm mowing the lawn, it is just a really fantastic game of Frogger, but with a very stingy ending. So... I'm just saying, I'm right there with Mike Tingley. We should probably burn them all down and start over because wasps are the worst and they should just go away.
They serve absolutely no purpose, no purpose but to be annoying and to build their nests in the most inopportune of places. It's like, really, out of all the places you could build a friggin' nest, you're gonna do it right by the entrance of my house when there's people constantly going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Forget it.
Because they're jerks.
Oh, yeah.
Die.
And then they get pissed off at you when you walk by.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Was I the genius that built my nest here, or was that you? Just asking.
Like, excuse me, I live here. I bought this house, you freeloader.
Exactly. You know what? If you want this corner of house, don't break the treaty. It's just like I say with spiders. If they stay outside and they don't bother me, I'm not going to bother them. But if you get in my face and you threaten me with stinging or potentially throwing me or my dog into anaphylactic shock, we're done. And I'm going to spray the crap out of you with whatever I can get my hands on. And like I said, if I can find a cheap flamethrower on Amazon, dude, that's going to be on my porch in the next couple of days because tis the season
it's a lighter.
It's
Is there drone delivery for that?
What is it? Use a lighter and like the cheapest hairspray you can find. Go to the dollar store and get both for like $2 and just put that lighter in front of that hairspray.
I ain't paying for Amazon Prime for nothing. 2-day shipping is what it's all about, okay?
Hey, who knows? Maybe in Amazon you'll find like 100-pack of lighters for like $2 with free shipping.
For sure. And I will let you know when I'm on the news for burning my house down because wasps have invaded.
I'll be like, oh, hey, I know that girl.
It's like Wasp NATO will be the next sci-fi original.
Oh gosh, no! Don't even joke about that. That's terrible.
I will win an Oscar for sure.
Tonight. Oh my gosh, no.
Okay, well, I think we have reached our limit for tonight, talking about disgusting insects that should not exist at all, and God has some explaining to do. If you'd like to join us, our show drops at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturdays. We do a podcast party on Twitter at Bells of Liberty that you can join in and answer questions on our polls or, send us gifts because we like those, and we're not afraid of them like CNN is. We also enjoy discussing things a little bit more frequently. We decided this week that we're going to start doing a weekly update, sort of a midweek chime as we're calling it. One of the bells or maybe all of the bells, if time allows for it, we'll get together and we'll do a video on something that's come up during the week that maybe can't wait until we record and gives us an opportunity to reach out to you guys and have some time to talk to our audience. So check that out on Facebook at The Bells of Liberty on Facebook. Like I said, it's midweek chime. You'll see somebody talking about something. I just posted one Wednesday. I don't know what day of the week it is, guys. Talking about the media again, kind of poking fun at CNN because CNN is full of a bunch of whiny babies. If you've missed any of our shows, you are welcome to join us on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, or Google Play Music. All of our previous shows are available there. You can go back and listen if you've missed any of them. And I think that's pretty much it. You can find us on our social media pretty frequently, and we are always happy to talk to you guys. So feel free to comment, leave ideas for topics, and keep an eye out. Hopefully, once I talk to our graphic designer in the house, we'll maybe have some merchandise ready for you guys to buy in the next, I don't know, I'd say a couple weeks. Maybe I might be pushing the envelope, but let's try for that. So keep an eye out for that, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to the Bells of Liberty podcast. Want to listen to more sassy content? All shows are available free on demand on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play Music. Have something to say? You can find us on Twitter @Bells of Liberty, and also on Facebook, www.facebook.com/The Bells of Liberty. And as always, keep calm and ring on.